So,
And this is the joy of the indie world also. Like we have this freedom
mm,
to decide, to, explore and to think big picture and to really take ownership and think about our books as intellectual property and all of the ways that we can exploit
yes,
them.
yep.
And that is the best fun.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Unfiltered Voices, the podcast that is all about busting the myth that self-published is second-rate. I'm Kellie Nissen. I'm an author coach and a self-published author, and I'll be talking to authors, illustrators, and other self-published industry professionals about their choices, their journeys, and everything in between. So stick around. Amra, talking about your writing and about writing in general, your books are not the light, frivolous kind. You've got some deep, quite heavy topics in what you write, and when you work with other authors as well. And I know personally that this can be, working with those heavy topics can be mentally draining to say that's just putting a whitewash over it. How do you actually manage to sort of introduce those topics into your books? And probably actually the main question is how do you actually sustain your creative energy when you're working with that sort of sometimes traumatic heavy material?
Well, I think this is the good thing about being the indie author. We have got 50 different things that we can do.
Mm.
And so I've got as I'm sure you do too, a constant to-do list.
Oh
And
yes.
it's like, what can I do today? What brain am I dealing with today? What
Yep.
mood am I dealing with today? So there is that part of it. There is also the part of, and this is where the teacher thing, we need to keep ourselves connected and we need to really make sure that we're focusing on our well-being and on ourselves and having a
Mm.
full life. And so one of the things that really gives me strength is I have, really good friends and family, and I have social calendar constantly going,
Mm.
people I see, things that really just, uplift me and give me that sense of happiness and light.
Yeah.
And also to bring up, I'm in perimenopause, and so the joy of going through this stage of our life
Fun.
is
Yes.
we are very, very good at sort of focusing our energy and culling things that don't serve us
Yep.
anymore. And
Yes.
so now I am, very aware of the fact that I need light, that I need things to look forward to. I need, time with my friends, time with my family, recreational activities. So that's something that I make sure to focus on. And I find that I've now learned that I have to work on one book and just finish the
Okay.
book. I used to do that juggling thing where it's like I'll do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I'm learning now it just has to be one book and see it
Yep.
through. But I think also, just to be really honest, I have been through a lot of trauma. I have
Mm.
been through a very, very difficult childhood. My mum was a bipolar sufferer, and I wrote a memoir about this called Things Nobody Knows But Me. And had, a lot of trauma, a lot of moving around, foster homes, uncertainty, insecurity.
Mm.
And I deal well with dark. I even now with this podcast that I'm doing, and when I do writing workshops, especially memoir writing workshops, a lot of people are working through their trauma,
Mm.
and people feel uncomfortable talking about traumatic events or being in a dark moment with someone. Especially a lot of women, in this stage of life are exploring about sexual abuse they might have been subjected to, some really dark things that they've been through. And I've realized that my superpower, in a sense, is that I can hold it. I can hold that moment. And that's what I'm realizing also with my writing. Even though it is dark, and the themes that I'm exploring are dark,
Mm.
For me, just the fact that this, I need to tell this story and I need to share it and I need to teach and educate in some way,
Mm.
and make a difference in some way gives me that motivation and impetus. But also obviously riding the waves. We
Yep.
go through those waves of emotion. I'm not very good at recognizing burnout. I'm getting a little bit better.
Show me a teacher who is.
No, well, we work until we collapse, don't we?
Yeah. It's like the body's just going, that's it, I'm taking control
Yes,
now.
yes, because we
So,
tune out. We're just like, no,
yeah.
no, keep going, keep going.
And even sort of as an author too, that burnout is a real thing. So not
Yes,
only just the authoring, but all of the business side of
yes,
independent publishing, because when you're not writing, you're thinking about your marketing and your social
yes.
media and what else you need to do. So I think that awareness of those symptoms is probably something that is key and something that we all have to learn, you and I both, and everybody else out there as well.
And also we need to recognize we can't do everything right
Mm,
now.
yes.
Like I took I didn't publish anything for nearly 2 years because I was working on my PhD. And of
Mm,
course my sales just died off
yeah.
and everything died off and my marketing died off. And I'm like, well, that's what needed to happen because I needed to finish that. There was no
Mm-hmm.
other way. And now it's like, okay, hopefully that's out of my life and I can now make sure I have more of a balance
Yep.
and that I keep all of the different parts flowing much
Mm,
better. But this is the first year I'm actually starting out with a publishing schedule and a writing schedule and
yep.
yeah, I did a Craig Martell. He did the indie capstone conference in Adelaide, and
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, if you want to succeed, you can't. It's not about hope. It's about planning. And I went,
Yes.
all right, Craig, Mister 100+ books and Mister
Yeah.
Millionaire. I
It's
am
like
listening.
it's the hard truth, isn't it? Like I think we all know this, but it's like,
Mm,
oh, maybe it'll just, I just keep doing what I'm doing. But at the end of the day, you do need to have routine and schedule and all that sort of thing. So yeah, I'll have to pick your brains later about what you're doing with that sort
we'll
of
see. It's a
apply.
big experiment. We'll see how
Yes,
this year
yeah,
pans
yeah. Well,
out.
you've got to try, don't you? And I
Oh,
think
I
it's
have
that
to. Yeah.
creation of habit as well
But
is
also, I have
important.
banked books. I am starting a schedule of publishing with 3 books written in the
Yes.
series and already
Yes.
scheduled.
Yep.
And then I've now started drafting other ones. So I purposely did that because I was like, I am not going to schedule um, books for publication before they're written.
Yep.
And so I waited to release the first book because my creative component was actually done quite a few years ago. I was working on my thesis for the past 3 years. So those
Right.
novels have just kind of been sitting there for a while now. But I was like, no, I need to wait for the right time and the right, space. And I also want to
Yep.
release them before my PhD was nearly completed in terms of my own
Mm.
self-confidence. So I can't do that yet. I don't think I will ever be scheduling a pre-order for a book that I'm writing. I
Yes.
will only ever schedule a pre-order when the book is already written. And it
Mm.
might be just going through the editing process, but there's at least a draft there,
Yes. There's a
a
lot of
version.
pressure in that, isn't there?
Yes,
To,
yes.
and we don't have crystal balls or
No.
anything. One thing I did, and I'm changing tangent a little bit here, because I don't write historical fiction at all, and I'm curious about this, about when you are writing historical fiction, or narrative nonfiction, or whatever subgenre it happens to be, and you're drawing upon um, history, and particularly the darker sides of history. So there has to be ethical challenges
Yes.
involved in
Yes.
that. So if you're fictionalizing a real historical atrocity, how do you work around those ethical challenges?
Yes. Well, that's what I struggled with the first book, because it was
Mm.
very, it's I tell the way I describe that book is it's like the Titanic. So the characters, my two main characters, Seka and Ramo, are fictional, but everything that happens
Mhm.
around them is real.
Yep.
And then I had to sort of zoom the lens out and tell a murder, a mystery story across
Mm.
that history. And I did find that difficult. So there were a few things that I did. One, the book has 2 pages of characters because they're all
Mhm.
Bosnian names, so they're hard. But also it has the real life characters, so the real life people who I've actually mentioned who existed, and then the fictional
Mhm.
characters. I have a historical note about what about the fact that yes, some of this is historical, but like that this is a fictional story. And then,
Mhm.
as I mentioned earlier, I did the book of essays. And
Yep.
so the book of essays, because I was like, well, one version I had footnotes, and my supervisors were like, no, darling, no, no, not in a novel. No one's interested in footnotes in a novel. I went, oh, all right. So I kind of wrote the book of essays for myself to feel like um, I have acknowledged the primary sources that I used, because a lot of these are survivors, are
Mm.
survivors of the siege, survivors of the genocide. And I'm taking their stories and, building this fictional, lens around it. And so I also have at the end like a list of all of the books that I sort of used, all the
Yep.
primary sources and organizations for people to look at about Srebrenica and about genocide studies.
Mm.
So, with that teacher brain, I sort of tried to do that ethical acknowledgement, and go further. This is your starting point.
Mm.
And we'll find out. I mean, I had a Sydney book launch, and I had survivors of the genocide there,
Wow.
who were crying and were like, when I was talking about my sources of inspiration and talking about some of the
Mm.
things, um, could really see the pain on their face. That's
Yeah.
also why the Bosnian version of the book is very important to me, because there is such a large diaspora, Bosnian
Mm.
community, because, I think it's 2 million who left Bosnia, who are living
Mm.
all over the world. And so I want to give them the opportunity to sort of, have access to the book and then to
Yeah.
the series. We'll see what happens there, because in one sense, the fact that it's in English, it's a limited audience. So
Yes.
when I have it published in Bosnian, there might be, other
Yeah.
people who have something to say. Um, so yeah, it's you. I tried to do it as ethically as I could, with the best intentions
Mm.
that I could. And the book of essays is available for free if people sign up to my newsletter. So
Mhm.
the paperback is available to be purchased, but the digital copies I did not make available on any retail platforms. It is available for free, because I did sort of want that to be something that anyone could get their
Yeah.
hands on.
And again, this is a choice you can make as an independently published
Yes,
author, right?
yes.
So yeah. Um, so there was another question I thought of then. Sensitivity readers.
Mm.
Did you use sensitivity readers for
No,
no,
no, because I
because
mean,
it's your
well, it's my
research really, isn't it?
it's
So
my research. I am Bosnian, so there is a bit of an issue in terms of writing
mm,
about genocide when I'm not a survivor of.
yeah,
But it is my heritage, and I am a Bosnian person, writing
yeah.
about my own culture and heritage. So for me, sensitivity readers aren't, I think that they more come in if you are writing about a culture that isn't your own,
Yes. So,
where
for
you,
example, if I'd written your story, that
yeah,
100% would have used sensitivity
mm,
readers for that. Yeah.
yeah. So, but I mean, having said that, even sensitivity readers, like it is one person's perspective.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
It's like that ridiculous thing of, you'll relate to this, at a school where someone uses a racial slur and they're like, yeah, but my
Mm,
friend is, and they told me I could. And it's like, sweetie, that's not how it works. You can't get
not
permission
the
from one
same.
person
No.
to, and so it is one perspective and one person, one person's voice. I mean, at the end of the day, you can do, I think with any book, you do the absolute best that you can, but there
Yes.
will always be someone who might have an issue with it, and you just have to toughen up
Oh,
and
yeah.
go, okay. Like even content warnings. I don't like trigger warnings. I don't like that word.
Mm.
And so I ended up doing content warnings, and what I did was a QR code and the website, and so it takes you to a website on
Mm.
my to a page on my website where I have like a list of all of the things. But that,
Ah,
I view that as a spoiler. And I'm like, well,
yes.
that's a spoiler. But then it's also like, if you are the sort of person who needs to know, and like, this is the book where there is medical procedures without anesthetic.
Mm.
There is, abortion without anesthetic. There is, all of these. It is a war. It is a war zone. It
Yeah.
is, really. And so it's like, okay, if that's something that you need, there it is for you, if you
Mm.
want to avail yourself of that.
Mm.
And if you are like me, who doesn't want to know anything and just wants to go into a book and just, read it, then disregard.
Yeah. I think it is just a matter of working out how you can cater for the needs of different people, but
Yeah.
also knowing that any book out there is going to, somebody's going to have an issue
Yes.
in
Yes.
these days. And I think I was just thinking as you were saying that, if we didn't publish because we thought, oh, this might offend somebody, there'd be no books.
There
There
would be
there
no
would
books.
be no books.
And there are also genocide deniers. There are
Yes.
there are
Yeah.
people in the community who deny all, different genocides, who are denying the
Mm,
genocide going on now, who deny the Holocaust genocide, and who deny the Srebrenica genocide.
yeah.
And I've had encounters with that, aspect of it, and that's completely historically inaccurate. Good day to you and your ignorance.
Yes.
But you just have to do the best with your best intentions. Um,
Absolutely.
Satisfy my conscience and feel like I have got an answer and I have done my best. But if there are people who are like, well, you got this wrong, it's a fiction book. Yes, I did manipulate things, and I put that in the note
Mm,
that I did manipulate, events and compress timelines and stuff like that. Like I did that with my memoir. When you write a
mhm.
memoir, you compress timelines, you
Oh, yeah.
compress characters. You have to, because real life is messy.
Yes.
Fiction is nice and neat. Real life very messy, and so
Oh,
the
yeah.
way that we tell a story, we have to kind of package it in a certain way,
Mm,
regardless of what the genre is.
yeah. And I think that's great advice for anybody out there who is thinking about writing anything really, actually, whether it's memoir or historical fiction or some sort of fiction based on their own experiences, is to do your research, back yourself, do everything that you can to make sure it's, ethically compliant, but also realize that nothing is ever going to be perfect. And
No, and that's why I struggled to publish this book. And like I sat on
mm,
it for a really long time, and I was like, I need to do my thesis. And
mm,
then it just got to the point where it's like, well, I have to pull the trigger on it. And so I really spent a long time thinking about all
yeah,
of the ways that I can tick those boxes and try and do the best thing that I can.
yeah.
But there's also things that I'm wary of, like the genocide occurred on the 11th of July, so there are always memorials going on around that. I don't post about my book. I don't,
Mm,
because that is really unethical. And for me to post about a fictional book that I wrote
yeah.
around an event that affected real people.
Mm,
I did write a piece a few years ago for a literary journal about the genocide. So it was a non-fiction piece, and it was
mm,
just about promoting and telling that story based on my research. So yeah, there's like, because that's the research, like that's the advice. Look for events that are tied to and market your book around. It's like, no,
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 there are certain events you don't do that for, basically.
no.
So,
Yeah,
well, if you're ethical, you don't do those
yeah,
things.
yeah.
So just thinking about like everything that you've achieved so far, and I know you've got your goals set out for this year and that sort of thing. What's your next big milestone goal that you want to achieve?
So
It
the
doesn't have to
next,
be a big, doesn't have to be a big one. It can be just, something. Your next thing is like, right, this is what I'm doing next.
well, for me, getting to a 6 books of this series is
Yep.
really what I'm focused on. I've only gotten to 3 books, and I've got some series that I started. Like I started some romance novels, and I was going to do a series there, and then I realized no, that's not where my interest or
Yeah.
time lies. And so I feel like I've been jumping around in
Mm,
genres and been doing a lot of different things. And so for me, the focus now on getting the 6 books of this series, of meeting this publishing schedule that I've got, where I'm doing a book every 3 months.
hmm.
I'm doing Kickstarter campaigns to soft
Yep.
launch. Then it's on retail platforms. So the first 2 books, I've had successful Kickstarter
Yep.
campaigns. I mean, they're small goals. The first one I got $822, and the second book I got 511.
Yep.
But I'm really proud because I was really scared about doing that and about. But it's been really wonderful because it's a whole new audience. People like there
Yeah.
are some people backing me who know me and I recognize their names, but then there are people I've never met who
Yeah.
are just coming through the Kickstarter ecosystem and discovering me. And so that's also part of my marketing strategy in terms of the Kickstarter and the retail and all that. So I
Mm,
think that's going to be my biggest focus this year. And then also, as I said, I want to do the books in Bosnian, and then Facebook advertising in Bosnian, and then start
yes.
doing translations in other languages. So
Yeah.
really, I follow, these groups. Are you in the group 20 books to 50K?
No,
Uh,
no.
oh, it's a wonderful group.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's people posting their success stories and their sales, and it is mind boggling. There are people earning like $1 million, 6-figure authors, like who are
Wow.
really, and they are the ones who have got the backlist of at least 20 books, who are then exploiting their intellectual property, who are doing the advertising, the paid advertising. And so the ones who are earning the 6-figure incomes are also paying, thousands of
Mm,
dollars in advertising, because to make money, you have to spend money.
yes.
And so for me, I'm like, I've been following that group since the beginning of my indie journey. And I've been learning from it and figuring things out. And so this year is the year of implementing the whole thing.
Okay. Yeah.
And also, I'm going to be a bit cheeky and do a bit of a plug. We were talking about this earlier. I've gone onto Substack. I'm
Yes.
publishing my podcast there, but also this year I'm doing a writing diary. So every week I'm going to be writing all about the journey of what's going on, all of the things that I'm doing. And
Brilliant.
so I thought this might be a good opportunity where, other authors who are wanting to enter this side of it, to really
Mm,
get that insight into how long it takes to write something, all of the stages that you have to go through, and then the marketing side of
yes.
it. So fingers crossed, Kellie.
Perfect.
This is the year. I'm
This
trying
is
to take myself seriously.
it's the year of implementation, I think.
Yes,
So I don't know if you're one of those people that likes to have a word, this is my word for the year,
I'm going to
that
take
sort
that
of
word,
thing.
Kellie.
That's
Implementation.
implementation, I think, is your word,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
Yes.
everybody out there, follow Amra on her Substack, because I know I will be, because that sounds really good. So Amra, just before we go, this has been fantastic. I've loved talking to you. I feel like
Thank you.
I think we could go on for a lot longer,
We
um,
really could.
but it will take a long time to edit. So before we go, can you let everybody know? I mean, obviously we can find you on Substack,
Mm-hmm.
but where else can listeners find you and find your books and your podcast? You said you're doing on Substack, but are you doing that elsewhere? So basically tell us where we can find you and your books.
Well, on my website, amrapajalic.com, everything about me. I use social media quite a bit, so Instagram and Facebook, I'm there. And now obviously getting onto Substack. My podcast is published on all audio platforms, and then video on Substack and on YouTube. And on my website, I've got web pages with show notes and transcripts. And and the other thing I'm doing on Substack is publishing articles based on the interviews and lessons learned.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm sort of I actually have all social media, but that's the other thing in terms of my year of implementation, Kellie. I need to focus and narrow down a little bit.
Yes.
So probably Facebook and Instagram are the two very consistent social media, and now Substack is something else. I kind of started, I did this post where I went, if you thought I'm doing this as a cynical ploy to get more eyeballs on my writing, you're right. But I kind of love it, Substack. Like, people are writing these beautiful, heartfelt, honest articles.
Like, I know Substack's been there for a while, but this, I don't know whether it's just I'm just more aware of it or whether it has actually really upped the game there as well.
I think I'm seeing a lot of writers and a lot of indie authors, and as I said, I was very cynical about why I was there, and so I put my podcast on there. But as I started reading articles, so another goal which I mentioned to you earlier is I've written all these opinion pieces, and I have all of these opinion pieces and essays that haven't been published, and so I'm going to try and commit to writing and publishing one thing a week and publish an essay collection at the end of the year. And so just sort of I'm one of those people who needs an audience. I think most of us are. I mean, there are some people maybe who can do it without. I'm not one of them. And so for me, sort of having this self-imposed deadline and a potential audience is going to make this project easier. And there's just been these essays that I've started working on in terms of losing my parents and menopause and midlife crises and, you know, a lot of darkness. And I haven't gone back to, but I really feel like I want to explore. And what I'm finding is I'm reading these essays where people are just so natural in their writing, where it's just their thoughts and they're just, you know, raw and getting out there. And I'm like, oh, I just want to do that. I want to be raw. I just want to, you know, not sit there perfecting and like tick, 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 edit, delete, you know, like I just want to get it out there. And then, of course, obviously, you know, if I need to, I'll edit the collection later on, but just to get that joy of, you know, the writing, the nonfiction part of it. So I'm sort of, cynical to now becoming like a fervent believer.
Yes, yeah. Just on that raw thing, I used to the year that I was off work because of breast cancer, I just did a blog, and it was purely for me. But I'd get on there and I'd have a rant, but I didn't edit them. I just literally gave myself half an hour, sat and typed for half an hour, and pressed publish. It is the most cathartic, satisfying way to write. Amra, thank you so much. I feel that I will have to have you back on, or at least make a time to chat with you further about many, many things.
Yes, please.
But thank you so much. And everybody out there listening, please follow Amra on Substack, buy her books, check out what she's doing, because I think this, implementation, this is your year.
Implementation. I'm going to do a post about that on Substack.
Excellent. I'm going to go and follow you so I can see it. Thank you.